Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, at the start of a brand new week and start of a brand new wonderful day. You can just about make out, I think, through the corner of the window there, how bright it is outside. It's absolutely stunning, clear blue skies. It's a shame it's -1. Otherwise, I'd be happy. But cold but bright. It's always nice. Now we've got to start, like I say, brand new week. We've got a load of stories today, and there's a load of stories coming up this week which will be of interest. So do hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss them. And going forward, it's going to be an interesting year. So join us on our journey. And just as an aside, I have been in contact with Roger Livermore over the weekend. There's another story that we're going to do. I mentioned this towards the end of the last week, so hopefully there'll be something coming out this week with Roger. But leave that with me. We'll try and pull everything together, coalesce it, and get it out. Anyway, we're going to start today with a story about Douglas Ross, and he's basically saying that he's worried about the future of Scotland under the SNP and his kids. But there is a difference there, because I think it's not only his kids' future that Douglas Ross needs to be worried about, but we will go in and have a look at everything. So kick the day off, something light, something nothing too intense, because you don't want that first thing on a Monday morning. But anyway, we'll take a look at Mr. Ross. Here goes. So, Douglas Ross says that he's worried about his own kids' futures under Humza Yousaf's failing SNP. Now, my immediate reaction on reading that is everybody should be worried about their own kids' futures under Humza Yousaf's failing SNP. But then logic and reason fell into my mind, and you realise that Humza Yousaf's failing SNP aren't going to be there for much longer. He's certainly going to be on the way out very, very quickly, followed by the SNP at the next Holyrood elections in hopefully 2026, if not sooner. And of course, it's one of those things. They do seem to be in terminal decline. Now, I know they've still got a lot of support, but with the defeats coming up likely in the general election, that massive drop in income from the MP salaries and the list money, but also come the next council elections, there's likely to be a big change there, and those council elections, of course, will hopefully see a lot more reduction, because it's not just MPs and MSPs that pay and chip in with their salary, effect of 15% of their salary or whatever it is. Councillors too, and it's money, every penny that we can stop them getting, basically, puts them further and further into that financial black hole. They're probably about £1 million in the red as we speak. It was 800,000 at the end of the last financial recording period. But time's gone on. They've got no corporate sponsorship. They're reliant solely on membership fees and on the cuts they get from the politicians. But their overheads haven't shrunk any. So they're probably about £1 million in the hole. And if we can force that income down from the politicians at every opportunity, at council, at UK Parliament, at Scottish Parliament, they will basically go under. They will cease to be able to be trading. Every one of them will have to fail, because there will be no SNP. And of course, that's the big positive take we can walk away with this. But we'll just round this, because it's there. But it's not just the SNP that need to be in trouble, that are in trouble. Anyway, the Scottish Tory leader also claimed his party could experience success in Scotland, similar to the 2017 general election where they won 13 seats. I think he's delusional. I do see them getting at the general election maybe 5 or 6 seats, possibly a 7th. It's possible to get more, but it needs tactical voting. But that's all down to the people of Scotland to sort of basically go, hold my nose, vote that way, make sure you're voting Tory, make sure you're voting the SNP out rather than any Tories in. But it has to be done, I'm afraid. Need to break the SNP. But he is in a very, very dodgy position. His coat's on a sugary peg, because he's only got a majority of 535, and he's got both seats. This is the thing. He's in a position where he has got a majority, but it's only a small majority in both seats. He could be out. He could go from having 2 seats to having none. So I think he's less worried about his children's future than perhaps his own. But it's going to be very close, whatever happens, I think. Anyway, Scottish Tory leader Douglas Ross confessed he was worried about the future of his own children under the failing Humza Yousaf administration. And he's hit out at a full year of controversy and scandal, which has scunnered Scots and distracted the Scottish government from the real issues in Scotland. They're not addressing the real issues, though, are they? They're too busy tied up kissing the arse of the Greens and pushing through all the weird green fantasy politics without addressing all the problems that need to be solved, and most of which were caused by the SNP in the first place. He also labelled the COVID WhatsApp scandal surrounding Nicola Sturgeon and led her administration as one of the biggest since devolution, and said that the scale of secrecy was on an unparalleled level. And he was speaking as his party geared up for the conference. He was actually saying this just at the start of the weekend there, before they all went into the big room in Aberdeen and, had a little circle jerk about how wonderful they were. It's a political party. None of the political parties are wonderful. They're all awful. People different, parties, no, they're all, parties tend to push to the extreme, and that's the trouble, because you're in an echo chamber, aren't you? Anyway, the Scottish Conservatives are quietly confident that they'll be able to keep hold of the 6 seats won in 2019. To be honest, they should be. They ought to hold, but even then, when you've only got a 500 vote majority, you've got to be a bit, just in case. It only takes a little bit of a poor turnout one way, or if it's raining or someone on the other side managed to get people out, you could go quite easily. But as a father of 2 young boys, it's education that Mr. Ross is most concerned about, the education policy. He said the 41-year-old lives in his Moray constituency with wife Crystal and their sons Alistair 4 and James 2. And he points to plummeting school rankings. Well, we covered this many a time before, where the school rankings on the PISA scale show that Scotland's education system is worse than some third world countries' education system. It's going from one of the best in the world, one where people would send their children to Scotland for the education system because it was so good, to the equivalent of Malawi or the Gabon or something. I mean, it's not good. And this is not down to Westminster. This is entirely down to education policy from the SNP. When you have to teach this and teach that and teach that. Oh, there's 57 genders and you're not allowed to say this about people there. Meanwhile, you're not teaching them maths. You're not teaching them English writing. You're not teaching them history. You're not anything useful. No. But hey, they know there's 57 genders. And write a little essay on how you feel when you touch yourself. SNP education policy. The policy of perverts, isn't it? So he says, I'm worried about my family members and constituents and people in every part of Scotland who are facing excessive weights on the NHS. I'm worried for our businesses that don't get the support from government. And even though the SNP Green government have been given additional funding to help businesses in hospitality, leisure and tourism, and then not passing that on. He said it's now 2 years in succession that the SNP government have failed to pass on the benefits of the business tax rates reduction for these purposes in those sectors, and that's inexcusable. Now that ties up also to the wanting and desire and demands that councils get funded directly from Westminster, because if Westminster, the Westminster money saying go help your businesses, this is money to help your businesses, and they're saying thank you very much, and then they're not helping the businesses, that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong, and that is wrong on a UK-wide economic benefit level, because you're not boosting the economy in one region, but you need the whole of Britain to be booming. And if you're not helping that region, then that region is going to sink into a black hole of economic depression, which will then cost the rest of the country even more to try and sort out. And why? Why should English money be used to pay for Scottish independence? Why should Scottish money be used to pay for Scottish independence when the majority of Scots don't want it? If the SNP want to pay for it, use SNP money, not government money. Not your money. Anyway, he says, getting back in, Ed, round this off, he says, there is no doubt that Scotland was once a world leader in education. We mentioned this. And we've fallen down the rankings. He says, my sister's a teacher at the money, and I know, at the moment, I think. And he says, and I know how difficult it is for teachers right now. So for Jenny Gilruth to say she's not even read a report about violence in schools, it shows they're not taking the issue seriously. And of course, it's all distraction in schools, education system down the pan, health system down the pan, communications, transport, social care, social policy, law, order, prisons. There's not one area of Scottish life that's improved by the SNP. Not one. Unless, of course, you happen to be related to a senior official or a senior MSP, in which case you have got a very good chance in life of going working in a little foreign embassy at great public expense. So for you, it's working out fine. Anyway, I should round off there, come up and finish. Thank you. Now, I think Ross has expressed a view that I'm going to say the vast majority would agree with. If you actually take the politics out of it and don't look at him as a Conservative MSP or a Conservative MP, and just look at him as a man who's concerned about his children's future and the country in which he lives, I think that most of those things, or virtually everything he said, makes sense. I don't think there's anything controversial. I think even a lot of SNP supporters are concerned about their kids' futures and can agree that yes, the schools are failing. They'll probably blame Westminster, but at least they can agree that the schools are failing. The education system is going down the pan. They are falling down the ratings. And that is something that everyone should be concerned about, as well as the economy and health and you name it. So, yeah, nailed it on the head. Anyway, we'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and I will speak to you later. Bye.